Hey there, and welcome to a new episode of Learn English Through Stories. Today, we will discover the fascinating life story of Kanye West, a controversial figure who came from nothing and became one of the most successful artists and fashion designers of our time. Before we begin, I will kindly ask you to consider liking this video and subscribing to our channel if you appreciate what we are doing here. Now grab your headphones and prepare to improve your English while learning the incredible story of a man who changed music forever. Kanye Omari West was born on June 8, 1977 in Atlanta, Georgia. His parents, Ray and Donda West, welcomed their only child into a world that had no idea what was coming. Can you imagine being born with the kind of creative energy that would one day shake the entire music industry? When Kanye was just 3 years old, his parents divorced. His mother, Donda, decided to move to Chicago, taking young Kanye with her. This early change would be the first of many transformations in his eventful life. Donda West wasn't just any mother. She was a university professor of English who believed deeply in education and creativity. Under her watchful eye, Kanye grew up surrounded by books, ideas, and encouragement. "Mom, one day I'm going to change the world," little Kanye once told his mother. Even as a child, his confidence was already taking shape. Picture this: a young boy sitting in his room in Chicago, drawing pictures and writing poems while other kids played outside. Kanye was different from the beginning. He showed early signs of artistic talent that went beyond music. By the time he was in elementary school, Kanye was already writing poetry. His mother noticed his gift with words and encouraged him to keep developing his skills. Little did she know that those early poems would one day transform into lyrics that millions would sing along to. But when did music enter the picture? It happened when Kanye was just 8 years old. He started experimenting with rhymes and beats, showing a natural talent that surprised everyone around him. While most children his age were playing sports or video games, Kanye was crafting his first simple melodies. The Chicago of the 1980s was alive with cultural movements. Hip-hop was growing in popularity, and young Kanye absorbed these influences like a sponge. The city's rich musical heritage, from blues to house music, all found their way into his developing artistic mind. When Kanye was 10, something unexpected happened that would change his life forever. His mother had an opportunity to teach in China for a year through an exchange program. Instead of leaving her son behind, she took him with her. Are you ready to hear how this experience transformed his worldview? Living in Nanjing, China, young Kanye was the only foreign student in his class. He didn't speak the language but quickly learned to adapt. This early exposure to a completely different culture gave him a unique perspective that many of his future American peers would never have. "Sometimes I felt so alone," he later recalled about his time in China, "but it taught me how to stand out instead of fit in." When they returned to Chicago, Kanye was no longer just another American kid. He had seen a world beyond his neighborhood, beyond his country. The experience had planted seeds of ambition and a desire to break boundaries. As Kanye entered his teenage years, his passion for music only grew stronger. By 13, he had written his first rap song. His mother, always supportive, paid for studio time so he could record it. Hold on to your seats. The path from this first recording to global fame was not going to be easy or straightforward. The boy with big dreams would face rejection, doubt, and countless obstacles before the world would know his name. But before we dive into his rise in the music world, we need to understand the foundations that made Kanye who he is. His high school years would reveal both his incredible creative talents and the personality that would later become famous or infamous, depending on who you ask. The hallways of Polaris High School in Chicago became the first real audience for Kanye's growing talent. While most students worried about fitting in, Kanye was already standing out. Can you imagine being a teenager, so sure of your future that nothing could shake your confidence? That was young Kanye. During these formative years, Kanye wasn't just developing as a rapper. He was also falling in love with another art form that would deeply influence his later work, visual art and design. He spent hours drawing and painting, showing remarkable skill. "I don't want to just make music," he told his art teacher. "I want to create entire worlds." Even then, his vision extended far beyond what most teenagers could imagine. His grades were good enough to earn him a scholarship to the American Academy of Art in Chicago after graduation. But Kanye's path was never going to be conventional. Picture this: a young artist torn between his passion for music and his mother's hopes for a traditional education. This was the first major crossroads in Kanye's life. After just one semester at art school, Kanye made a decision that worried his professor mother. He dropped out to pursue music full-time. It was a huge risk, but Kanye had never been afraid of taking chances. Donda West, despite her concerns, supported her son's decision. "I raised him to think for himself," she later wrote in her book. This unconditional support would be crucial for Kanye's developing career. But the music industry wasn't waiting with open arms for this confident young man from Chicago. The late 1990s saw Kanye hustling as a local producer, making beats in his small apartment. Are you ready to hear about the struggles before the fame? Kanye would go from studio to studio, carrying a backpack full of his beats, hoping someone would give him a chance. Most doors remained closed. The rejection was constant, but so was his determination. During this time, Kanye joined a rap group called the Go-Getters. They had some local success in Chicago, but nothing that would suggest the heights Kanye would eventually reach. The breakthrough came in 1998, when Kanye sold his first beat to a local rapper. The payment wasn't much, but the validation was priceless. Someone had finally seen value in his work. "This is just the beginning," he told his mother that night, eyes shining with excitement. Little by little, Kanye's reputation as a talented producer grew in the Chicago scene. His unique style blended soul samples with hard-hitting drums in a way that stood out from other producers of the time. Hold on. The real game changer was just around the corner. In 2000, Kanye got his big break when he began working for Rockefeller Records, producing for established artists like Jay-Z. His work on Jay-Z's album The Blueprint in 2001 turned the industry's heads. The album was a huge success, and suddenly everyone wanted beats from the young producer from Chicago. But Kanye wasn't satisfied with being behind the scenes. He had always seen himself as more than just a producer. He wanted to rap, to be the star, to share his own stories. When he approached record executives about becoming a rapper, they laughed. "Stick to producing," they told him. In their eyes, Kanye didn't fit the image of a rapper at that time. He didn't come from the streets. He wore preppy clothes instead of baggy jeans. He was middle class, educated, and different. Would you have given up if everyone told you that your dream was impossible? Kanye didn't. Instead, the rejection fueled him. He worked harder, stayed up later, and pushed himself beyond what anyone thought possible. Then, on October 23, 2002, everything almost ended before it truly began. Driving home from a late-night recording session in Los Angeles, Kanye fell asleep at the wheel and crashed his car. The accident was severe. Kanye's jaw was shattered, requiring emergency surgery and having his jaw wired shut. Lying in the hospital bed, face swollen and in pain, many would have seen this as a sign to give up. But not Kanye West. Instead, something remarkable happened in that hospital room that would change the course of music history. With his jaw still wired shut, he recorded a song called "Through the Wire," rapping about his accident and recovery. The pain in his voice was real. The determination was undeniable. And the music industry finally had to take notice of the artist they had been rejecting for years. What happened next would shock everyone, including those who had doubted him for so long. But Kanye's journey from hospital bed to worldwide fame would be filled with even more surprises, controversies, and groundbreaking moments that no one could have predicted. Through the Wire was more than just a song. It was a statement. Kanye had turned one of the worst moments of his life into art, and people were finally listening. Are you ready to see how a man with his jaw wired shut changed the face of hip-hop forever? With the success of Through the Wire as a single, Roc-A-Fella Records finally gave Kanye what he had been fighting for, a chance to release his own album. He named it The College Dropout, a playful reference to his decision to leave school for music. Working day and night, Kanye poured everything into this album. It wasn't just music to him, it was his one shot to prove everyone wrong. Picture this: a young artist who had been told no countless times, now finally holding the keys to his own destiny. The pressure was enormous, but so was his drive. On February 10, 2004, The College Dropout was released to the world. No one, not even Kanye himself, could have predicted what happened next. The album was an instant success. Critics praised its unique sound, thoughtful lyrics, and fresh perspective. It wasn't like other hip-hop albums of the time. There were no gangster stories or violent lyrics. Instead, Kanye rapped about family, faith, racism, and his own insecurities. "I wanted to make music that my mother could listen to," he explained in an interview. "Music that speaks to real people with real struggles." The album sold over 400 0 copies in its first week alone. Songs like Jesus Walks, All Falls Down, and Slow Jams became huge hits. Suddenly, the producer turned rapper was everywhere, on radio stations, music videos, and magazine covers. Hold on to your seats. The music industry that had once rejected him was now rolling out the red carpet. At the 2005 Grammy Awards, The College Dropout was nominated for Album of the Year. Although it didn't win that category, Kanye took home 3 Grammy Awards that night, including Best Rap Album. Standing on stage, accepting his award, Kanye had finally arrived. But success didn't soften Kanye's outspoken personality. If anything, it made him more confident in expressing his opinions. During a televised fundraiser for Hurricane Katrina victims in 2005, Kanye went off script while standing next to actor Mike Myers. "George Bush doesn't care about black people," he suddenly declared on live television, shocking viewers across America. The statement created instant controversy. Some praised his courage for speaking out, while others criticized him for turning a charity event into a political statement. Either way, one thing was clear. Kanye West was not afraid to speak his mind, regardless of the consequences. Can you imagine having that kind of courage? To say exactly what you think, even when millions of people are watching. With fame came wealth, and Kanye's lifestyle began to change. The boy from Chicago was now living in luxury apartments, wearing designer clothes, and traveling the world. But his hunger for creative success never diminished. While many artists might have taken time to enjoy their newfound fame, Kanye immediately began working on his second album. He had more to say, more to prove. Late Registration was released on August 30, 2005, just 18 months after his debut. The album featured more complex production with strings, horns, and sophisticated arrangements. Kanye had worked with film composer John Brion to create a more orchestral sound, pushing the boundaries of hip-hop even further. The risk paid off. Late Registration was another massive success, selling over 860 0 copies in its first week. Critics called it a masterpiece, praising Kanye's growth as both a producer and a rapper. But as his star continued to rise, dark clouds were forming on the horizon. The man who had everything would soon face a tragedy that no amount of fame or money could protect him from. And the music world was about to see a side of Kanye West that would change everything. In the midst of his growing success, Kanye maintained a close relationship with his mother, Donda. She had been his biggest supporter from the beginning, and now she was enjoying watching her son's dreams come true. She even wrote a book titled Raising Kanye in 2007, sharing stories about her famous son's childhood and their special bond. But that same year, tragedy struck in a way no one could have prepared for. Picture this: a son at the height of his career, watching helplessly as his mother, his rock, his biggest fan, slips away. In November 2007, Donda West decided to undergo cosmetic surgery. What should have been a routine procedure turned into a nightmare when complications arose. The day after her surgery, Donda West passed away at the age of 58. The loss devastated Kanye. The woman who had believed in him when no one else did was gone. How would he continue without her guidance and support? Are you ready to see how grief can transform not just a person, but an entire art form? Just 12 days after his mother's funeral, Kanye forced himself to return to the stage. During a concert in Paris, he attempted to perform a song dedicated to her called Hey Mama. Halfway through, he broke down in tears. The audience watched in silence as one of music's biggest stars showed his raw, human vulnerability. "I don't know how I'm going to keep going," he admitted in a rare interview during this period. "But I know she would want me to create." And create he did. Channeling his grief into his art, Kanye retreated to a recording studio in Hawaii. There, far from the public eye, he began working on what would become his most personal album yet. Hold On. What emerged from this period of mourning wasn't what anyone expected. Rather than producing a sad, reflective album about loss, Kanye created something completely different. 808's Heartbreak, released in November 2008, was a dramatic departure from his previous work. Gone were the soul samples and traditional hip-hop beats. Instead, Kanye embraced a minimal electronic sound dominated by the Roland TR-808 drum machine. Even more surprisingly, he barely rapped on the album at all. Instead, he sang through an auto-tune voice processor, creating a cold, distant, robotic effect. The lyrics explored themes of loss, loneliness, and alienation. It wasn't just about his mother's death, but also his recent breakup with fiancée Alexis Pfeiffer. Kanye had taken his personal pain and transformed it into something entirely new. When it was first released, many fans and critics didn't know what to make of 808's Heartbreak. It sounded nothing like the Kanye they knew. Some called it brilliant, others called it a mistake. Can you imagine taking such a huge creative risk when you're already successful? When you could easily just repeat what worked before? That was Kanye. Always pushing forward, always reinventing himself, regardless of what others thought. What many didn't realize at the time was how influential this album would become. The emotional vulnerability, the melancholic electronic sound, and the blend of singing and rapping would go on to inspire a whole new generation of artists. Future stars like Drake, The Weeknd, and Frank Ocean would all acknowledge the impact 808's Heartbreak had on their own musical styles. But as 2009 began, Kanye seemed lost. The grief of losing his mother, combined with the pressure of fame, was taking its toll. His behavior became more erratic, his statements more controversial. Then came the moment that would forever change his public image. At the 2009 MTV Video Music Awards, during Taylor Swift's acceptance speech for Best Female Video, Kanye suddenly stormed the stage. "I'm going to let you finish," he said, taking the microphone from a shocked Swift. But Beyoncé had one of the best videos of all time. The audience gasped. Beyoncé looked embarrassed. Taylor Swift stood frozen, unsure what to do. In just a few seconds, Kanye had created one of pop culture's most infamous moments. The backlash was immediate and severe. President Obama called him a jackass. Fans turned against him. His upcoming tour with Lady Gaga was cancelled. Overnight, Kanye West went from being one of music's most respected artists to one of its most hated figures. How would he recover from this? Would his career survive such a massive public mistake? The man who had overcome so many obstacles was now facing his biggest challenge yet, not from the industry, but from himself. What happened next would not only save his career, but elevate it to heights that even Kanye himself couldn't have imagined. But the path to redemption would be anything but smooth. After the Taylor Swift incident, Kanye West became public enemy number one. The media attacked him relentlessly. Fans turned against him. The music industry that had once embraced him now kept its distance. Are you ready to witness one of the greatest comebacks in music history? Facing intense public backlash, Kanye made a decision that surprised everyone. He disappeared. He cancelled all appearances and retreated from the spotlight. For the first time since his rise to fame, Kanye West was silent. "I needed to rebuild," he later explained. "I had to figure out who I really was." He travelled to Rome, then Japan, searching for inspiration and clarity. Finally, he settled in Hawaii, transforming a hotel into a makeshift studio. There, far from the judgment of the world, he began working on what many consider his masterpiece. Picture this: a beautiful Hawaiian paradise, but inside a darkened recording studio, a man is fighting to save his career and reclaim his artistic voice. Kanye's approach to creating this album was unlike anything he had done before. He invited dozens of artists to Hawaii, rappers, singers, producers, creating a collaborative environment where ideas flowed freely. The studio operated under strict rules: no social media, no egos, and everyone had to wear the same simple clothes. It was all about the music. For months, they worked around the clock. Kanye pushed everyone to their creative limits, including himself. He was determined to create something so undeniably brilliant that people would have to forgive his past mistakes. Hold on tight. The result of this intense creative period would change everything. On November 22, 2010, Kanye released My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy. The album was a stunning achievement, blending hip-hop with classical music, rock, and soul in ways no one had attempted before. The lyrics were deeply personal, exploring themes of fame, excess, love, and redemption. The critical response was overwhelming. Music publications gave it perfect scores. Many called it not just the best album of the year, but one of the greatest albums ever made. Even those who disliked Kanye personally couldn't deny the brilliance of his work. "I wanted to create art that would last forever," Kanye said during a rare interview. "Something that would still matter 100 years from now." The album debuted at number 1 on the charts and eventually won multiple Grammy Awards. Against all odds, Kanye had transformed a career-threatening disaster into his greatest triumph. He had reminded the world that, despite his controversial personality, he was first and foremost an artist of extraordinary talent. Can you imagine the determination it takes to rise from your lowest point to your highest achievement? That's exactly what Kanye did. But even as he celebrated this success, Kanye's mind was already moving in new directions. He had conquered music. Now he wanted to conquer other creative fields as well. Fashion, in particular, had always fascinated him. Long before becoming famous, Kanye had dreamed of designing clothes. Now, with his musical credibility restored, he began pursuing that dream with characteristic intensity. His first serious step into fashion came with a collaboration with luxury brand Louis Vuitton on a sneaker collection. Although successful, Kanye wanted more. He wanted his own fashion line. In 2011, he presented his first women's fashion collection at Paris Fashion Week. However, unlike his musical comeback, this debut was met with harsh criticism. Fashion critics found the designs amateurish and uninspired. The rejection stung, but it didn't deter him. If anything, it made him more determined to succeed in this new world. Just as he had fought for respect in music, he would now fight for respect in fashion. Meanwhile, his musical output continued at an astonishing pace. In 2011, he released Watch the Throne, a collaborative album with Jay-Z. The album was another success, cementing their status as hip-hop royalty. But as Kanye's professional life soared to new heights, his personal life was about to undergo a dramatic transformation that would once again thrust him into the center of the celebrity universe. A chance meeting with a reality TV star would create one of the most famous power couples in entertainment history. In 2012, as Kanye was working on his next album, he became increasingly close with Kim Kardashian. Though they had known each other for years, their friendship had recently evolved into something more. Are you ready to see how two of the world's most famous people created a relationship that fascinated millions? Kim Kardashian was already a major celebrity through her family's reality TV show, Keeping Up with the Kardashians. When she and Kanye began dating publicly, they instantly became one of the most photographed couples on the planet. The media attention was intense. Everywhere they went, paparazzi followed. Every outfit, every dinner date, every casual comment became headline news. Picture this: two people who were already famous individually, now combining their star power to create something even bigger. Kimye, as the press called them, wasn't just a couple, it was a cultural phenomenon. In December 2012, during a concert in Atlantic City, Kanye made a surprise announcement to the crowd. Kim was pregnant with their first child. The news spread across the internet within minutes. On June 15, 2013, Kim gave birth to their daughter, Northwest. The unusual name became a trending topic worldwide, with people debating and discussing the couple's choice. "I wanted a name that meant something," Kanye explained. "North represents the highest point, something to strive for." Becoming a father changed Kanye. Friends and family noticed a new softness in him, a vulnerability he hadn't shown before. The man who had built his image on confidence and bravado was now sharing gentle moments with his daughter. Hold on. Fatherhood didn't mean Kanye was slowing down creatively. If anything, it gave him new inspiration. In June 2013, he released his sixth solo album, Yeezus. Once again, Kanye reinvented his sound, embracing harsh industrial elements and electronic music. The result was his most experimental and aggressive album yet. The album divided fans and critics. Some praised its innovation and boldness, while others found it too abrasive. But that was Kanye, always pushing boundaries, always challenging expectations. 4 months after the release of Yeezus, Kanye proposed to Kim in typically grand fashion. He rented out an entire baseball stadium in San Francisco, hired a 50-piece orchestra, and projected the words, "Please marry me," on the giant scoreboard. She said yes. Can you imagine planning a wedding when you're one of the most famous couples in the world? Every detail becomes news. On May 24, 2014, Kanye and Kim were married in a lavish ceremony in Florence, Italy. The wedding photos became some of the most liked images on social media at that time. The couple had officially united two entertainment empires. As a married man and father, Kanye continued pursuing his fashion dreams with renewed focus. In 2015, he announced a partnership with Adidas to create the Yeezy line of shoes and clothing. Unlike his previous fashion attempts, the Yeezy brand was an immediate success. The first Yeezy sneakers sold out within minutes of their release. Resellers were offering them for thousands of dollars above retail price. Suddenly, Kanye wasn't just a musician trying to break into fashion. He was a legitimate fashion designer with one of the hottest brands in the world. "This is what I always wanted," he said during the first Yeezy fashion show, "to create things that people actually want to wear." The Kardashian West family continued to grow. In December 2015, they welcomed their second child, a son named Saint. Their family life was heavily documented, both on social media and through the Kardashian reality show. But as 2016 approached, storm clouds were gathering. Despite his professional and personal successes, Kanye was struggling behind the scenes. The pressures of fame, family, and running multiple business ventures were taking a toll on his mental health. What the public didn't know was that Kanye had been dealing with serious psychological issues for years. These issues would soon burst into public view in ways that would concern his fans and loved ones. The man who had overcome so many obstacles, rejection, a near-fatal car accident, his mother's death, was about to face perhaps his greatest challenge yet, a battle with his own mind. And this time, the whole world would be watching. In 2016, Kanye was juggling more responsibilities than ever before. Music, fashion, family. His life was moving at an incredible pace, with no signs of slowing down. Are you ready to see how even the strongest minds can reach their breaking point? In February 2016, Kanye released his seventh solo album, The Life of Pablo. Unlike his previous albums, this one had a chaotic release. with Kanye constantly making changes even after it was available to the public. He called it a living, breathing, changing creative expression. But to many, it seemed like the work of someone struggling to focus. The album's release coincided with another Yeezy fashion show at Madison Square Garden in New York City. The event was streamed live to millions around the world, blurring the lines between music and fashion in a way only Kanye could. But behind this success, Kanye's behavior was becoming increasingly erratic. His Twitter posts grew more and more unpredictable. He would share profound thoughts one minute, then launch into strange rants the next. Picture this: a man achieving everything he ever dreamed of, yet seeming more unhappy and unstable with each passing day. In November 2016, during a concert in Sacramento, California, Kanye delivered a 17-minute speech where he criticized fellow artists, the media, and even his friends. Then, just 3 songs into the show, he dropped the microphone and walked off stage. The crowd was left confused and angry. 2 days later, the remainder of his tour was cancelled. Shortly after, news broke that Kanye had been hospitalized for a psychiatric emergency. He was experiencing what medical professionals call a psychiatric emergency, a breakdown caused by exhaustion, stress, and underlying mental health issues. "I was in a place where I needed help," he later admitted in an interview. "I was drowning." Hold on. This difficult moment would lead to an important revelation about Kanye's health. During his recovery, Kanye was diagnosed with bipolar disorder, a mental health condition characterized by extreme mood swings that include emotional highs, mania, and lows, depression. Suddenly, many of his past behaviors began to make more sense. The diagnosis was both a burden and a relief. On one hand, it helped explain the emotional roller coaster he had been riding for years. On the other hand, it meant facing the reality of living with a serious mental health condition in the unforgiving spotlight of fame. Can you imagine having your most difficult moments broadcast to the entire world? Having your mental health struggles become tabloid headlines? For months after his hospitalization, Kanye stayed away from public life. He focused on his health and his family. In January 2018, he and Kim welcomed their 3rd child, a daughter named Chicago, born via surrogate. As he slowly returned to public life, Kanye began speaking openly about his diagnosis. In interviews and on social media, he discussed the challenges of bipolar disorder, sometimes calling it his superpower rather than a disability. When you're bipolar, if you don't take medication every day to keep you on a certain level, there's a chance that you could, get ramped up, he explained during a television interview, helping educate millions about the condition. But just as things seemed to be stabilizing, Kanye once again shocked the world, this time with his political views. In April 2018, he began expressing support for controversial President Donald Trump, even wearing a "Make America Great Again" hat in public. For an African American artist whose early work had often addressed racism and inequality, this sudden political shift confused and upset many of his fans. Some wondered if it was related to his mental health struggles. Others felt betrayed by an artist they had long admired. In a series of tweets, Kanye defended his right to independent thinking. "You don't have to agree with me, but the mob can't make me not love him." The controversy grew when, during an interview, Kanye made comments suggesting that slavery had been a choice for African Americans. The backlash was immediate and intense. Many former supporters publicly distanced themselves from him. Despite the controversy, or perhaps because of it, Kanye remained in the spotlight. In June 2018, he released a new album called Ye, with cover art that included the phrase, "I hate being bipolar. It's awesome," a reference to the contradictory feelings that come with his condition. The album debuted at #1 on the charts, proving that despite everything, Kanye's musical talent still resonated with audiences. But his journey was far from over. The most unexpected chapter of his life was about to begin, one that would surprise even his most dedicated followers. As 2018 progressed, something was changing in Kanye. Those close to him noticed a new focus on spirituality and faith. Though he had always referenced God in his music, remember his early hit Jesus Walks, his relationship with Christianity seemed to be deepening. Are you ready to witness one of the most surprising transformations in music history? In January 2019, Kanye began hosting what he called Sunday Service, weekly gathering featuring a gospel choir performing spiritual versions of his songs alongside traditional gospel music. Initially private events for friends and family, these services eventually opened to the public and attracted enormous crowds. The music was powerful, soul-stirring renditions that transformed Kanye's often provocative hits into songs of praise. Celebrities attended. Videos went viral. Sunday Service became a cultural phenomenon. Picture this. The same artist who once called himself Yeezus and shocked the world with controversial statements, now leading worship services in white robes, surrounded by a choir in matching outfits. "God has been calling me for a long time," Kanye explained during an interview. "I've been running away from him. Now I'm coming home." In May 2019, Kanye and Kim welcomed their fourth child, a son named Psalm, a biblical name that reflected Kanye's growing religious focus. His family was expanding just as his faith was deepening. Hold on tight. Kanye's spiritual journey was about to impact his art in a dramatic way. On October 25, 2019, he released Jesus is King, an album devoted entirely to Christian themes. Gone were the explicit lyrics and provocative themes of his earlier work. Instead, every song focused on faith, worship, and spiritual struggles. The album divided critics and fans. Some praised its sincerity and message, while others missed the old Kanye. But regardless of opinions, quote, Jesus is King debuted at #1 on the charts, quote, making history as the first album to top 5 different Billboard charts simultaneously. Kanye wasn't just making religious music, he was reinventing himself as a gospel artist. He announced that he would no longer perform his old secular music, at least not in its original form. Songs that had made him famous were either being retired or reworked to remove explicit content. Can you imagine an artist at the height of success willingly leaving behind the music that made them famous? That's exactly what Kanye was doing. His faith journey continued with the creation of an opera called Nebuchadnezzar, based on the biblical king who suffered from mental illness before finding God. The parallels to Kanye's own life were clear. But Kanye's ambitions extended beyond music. In 2020, he made perhaps his most surprising move yet, announcing his candidacy for President of the United States. The announcement came late in the election cycle, making it impossible for him to appear on the ballot in many states. Many questioned his seriousness and preparedness for such an important role. His first campaign rally in South Carolina was chaotic, with Kanye breaking down in tears while discussing personal family matters. "I'm not here to win an election," he said during an interview about his campaign. "I'm here to share ideas that can help our nation." In the end, Kanye received approximately 60 votes nationwide, nowhere near enough to impact the race between Donald Trump and Joe Biden. But the presidential run reinforced a growing truth about Kanye West. He was impossible to predict. Throughout this period, his fashion empire continued to thrive. The Yeezy brand was now valued at billions of dollars, making Kanye one of the wealthiest musicians in the world. His designs influenced the entire fashion industry, with the Yeezy aesthetic of neutral colors and minimalist styles being widely imitated. However, his personal life was facing new challenges. In July 2020, Kim Kardashian made a public statement about Kanye's bipolar disorder after he posted a series of concerning tweets about their marriage. She asked for compassion and empathy from the public during this difficult time. By early 2021, rumors were circulating that their marriage was in trouble. In February, Kim filed for divorce after nearly 7 years of marriage. The couple agreed to joint custody of their 4 children. Despite this personal setback, Kanye's creative output continued at an astonishing pace. In August 2021, after multiple delays and listening events in stadiums across America, he released his 10th solo album, Donda, named after his late mother. The album featured 27 tracks, exploring themes of faith, family, and personal struggles. It debuted at number 1 on the charts in more than 20 countries, proving that despite controversy and personal troubles, Kanye's artistic relevance remained undeniable. As this chapter of his life closed, one thing was certain. The boy from Chicago who dreamed of changing music had done exactly that many times over. But his story was far from finished. New challenges and controversies awaited, testing not just his resilience, but the loyalty of even his most devoted fans. By 2022, Kanye West, who had officially changed his legal name to Ye the previous year, was one of the wealthiest and most influential artists in the world. His music had transformed hip-hop. His fashion brand was worth billions. His every move made headlines. Are you ready to see how quickly everything can change when words cross certain boundaries? Following his divorce from Kim Kardashian, Kanye's behavior became increasingly unpredictable. On social media, he frequently criticized his ex-wife and her new relationship, sharing private messages and making public demands about their children. His fashion shows became more provocative. At his Yeezy Season 9 presentation in Paris, models wore shirts with the slogan, "White Lives Matter," a phrase widely considered offensive as it mocks the Black Lives Matter movement against racial injustice. Picture this: a man who once boldly spoke out against racism, now seemingly embracing messages that many found deeply hurtful to the black community. Fans were confused. Critics were outraged. "I'm expressing myself," he defended when questioned. "Artists should be free to create without boundaries." But the fashion controversy was just the beginning. In October 2022, Kanye appeared on several podcasts and interviews where he made comments that were widely condemned as anti-Semitic, expressing harmful stereotypes and conspiracy theories about Jewish people. Hold on. The backlash that followed was unlike anything Kanye had experienced before. Major companies that had partnered with him quickly cut ties. Adidas ended their highly profitable Yeezy collaboration, despite it representing a significant portion of their annual revenue. Gap, Balenciaga, and other brands followed suit. Talent agencies dropped him. Radio stations stopped playing his music. In just a matter of weeks, Kanye's net worth reportedly dropped from billions to millions. The empire he had spent years building seemed to crumble overnight. Can you imagine losing partnerships worth billions of dollars because of words you chose to speak? That's exactly what happened to Kanye. Many fans who had stood by him through other controversies found these comments impossible to defend. His music streams declined. His social media accounts were restricted. Former friends and collaborators publicly condemned his statements. For a while, Kanye seemed to disappear from public view. Reports suggested he was traveling, reflecting, and possibly reassessing his approach to communication. Some sources claimed he was working on new music, while others suggested he was focusing on his mental health. "Sometimes you need to step away to see clearly," said one of his longtime producers when asked about Kanye's whereabouts. When he eventually returned to social media, his tone had shifted. In a brief message, he acknowledged that his words had caused pain and expressed a desire to learn and grow. Whether this represented a genuine change of heart or simply awareness of the consequences remained unclear to many observers. Throughout 2023, Kanye maintained a lower profile than usual. He was occasionally spotted at events or restaurants, sometimes with new romantic partners, but generally stayed away from interviews and controversial statements. Instead, he seemed to be focusing on rebuilding, not just his career, but perhaps himself. He spent more time with his children. He traveled to countries in Africa and Asia, experiences that friends described as spiritually meaningful for him. Reports emerged that he was working on new music that some insiders described as more reflective and mature than his recent releases. Whether this represented another reinvention or a return to his roots remained to be seen. By early 2024, Kanye began making careful steps back into the public eye. He released a new album, collaborating with younger artists who still valued his musical genius despite the controversies. The album received mixed reviews, but demonstrated that his creative abilities remained intact. He also launched a smaller, independent fashion line. Without the backing of major corporations, the scale was much reduced from his Yeezy peak. But for Kanye, it represented something important, a fresh start, a chance to rebuild on his own terms. "I've learned that with great influence comes great responsibility," he said during a rare interview that year. "Words have consequences. I'm still learning." For many former fans, these steps toward accountability were too little, too late. Others believed in the possibility of growth and redemption. The debate about separating art from artist and whether to continue supporting Kanye's work raged on social media and in music publications. What was clear was that Kanye West's journey had taken yet another unexpected turn. The boy from Chicago who dreamed of changing music had indeed changed it, along with fashion, celebrity culture, and conversations about mental health. But at what cost? And what would his legacy ultimately be? As we look back at Kanye West's extraordinary life journey, from his childhood in Chicago to global fame and controversy, one question remains: how will history remember him? Are you ready to explore the complicated legacy of a man who changed music forever, but often seemed at war with himself and the world? Musically, Kanye's influence is undeniable. Each of his albums marked a shift in hip-hop's sound. The College Dropout helped move mainstream rap away from gangster narratives toward more personal, relatable stories. 808's Heartbreak introduced emotional vulnerability and electronic elements that influenced countless artists who came after. My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy showed how hip-hop could be as complex and ambitious as any classical composition. Picture this: a music industry forever changed because one man refused to follow the rules, repeatedly reinventing himself and pushing creative boundaries. Beyond music, Kanye transformed the relationship between hip-hop and fashion. Before him, rappers might endorse clothing lines or partner with existing brands. Kanye proved that an artist could become a legitimate fashion designer, creating products that influenced global style trends. "He taught us to think bigger," said one young musician who considers Kanye an inspiration. "He showed that being from hip-hop doesn't limit what you can achieve in other fields." Hold on. Kanye's influence extends far beyond entertainment and fashion. By speaking openly about his bipolar disorder, Kanye helped reduce stigma around mental health, especially in the Black community and in hip-hop, where such topics were often avoided. Though his approach wasn't always perfect, his willingness to discuss his struggles made others feel less alone. His religious journey, while sometimes criticized as performative, inspired meaningful conversations about faith in modern culture. His Sunday service events brought gospel music to new audiences and created spaces where people of different backgrounds came together through music. Can you imagine changing so many different aspects of culture in a single lifetime? That's the scale of Kanye's impact. Of course, his controversies cannot be separated from his achievements. The same outspokenness that made him a revolutionary artist also led to statements that hurt communities and damaged his reputation. The same confidence that helped him break barriers sometimes crossed into arrogance that alienated supporters. Kanye's story teaches us important lessons about genius and its limitations. Being brilliant in one area doesn't make someone infallible in others. Having a platform doesn't mean every thought should be shared. Mental health challenges explain behavior, but don't excuse harm caused to others. Perhaps the most powerful lesson from Kanye's life is about the human capacity for both creation and destruction. The same person who wrote songs that brought people to tears also spoke words that caused deep pain. The man who helped expand opportunities for black artists also made statements that many felt undermined the struggle for racial justice. Complicated might be the word that best describes Kanye West. Neither purely hero nor villain, he exists in the complex middle ground where most of humanity actually lives. For aspiring artists, Kanye's story offers both inspiration and warning. His determination shows how far belief in yourself can take you. His later controversies demonstrate how easily success can be jeopardized when awareness of impact is lost. For those struggling with mental health, his journey highlights both the possibility of creating greatness amid challenges and the importance of proper treatment and support systems. And for all of us, Kanye West's life reminds us of our shared humanity. Even those who reach the highest levels of fame and fortune still face the same fundamental human struggles, seeking meaning, managing emotions, building relationships, and trying to leave a positive mark on the world. As this story ends, Kanye West's continues. At the time of this recording, he is still creating, still evolving, still surprising the world. What the next chapter holds, no one knows, perhaps not even Kanye himself. What we do know is that the boy from Chicago who dreamed of changing music did exactly that and much more. For better or worse, our cultural landscape has been forever altered by his presence. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the life of Kanye West. We hope this story has not only improved your English skills, but also given you insights into the complex relationship between art, fame, mental health, and personal responsibility. If you enjoyed this episode, please like, share, and subscribe to Learn English Through Stories for more fascinating life stories that will enhance your language learning. Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and remember that every life, even the most famous ones, contains lessons for us all.